He's also that guy on what's that movie? Sewe Binnelanders.
Hello, good morning, everybody. It's lovely to be here. Hey? Okay. It's wonderful to be in Secunda. Thank you, Donnell and Michelle and Marita. We've had a great road trip so far. Just a little bit about myself, quickly. I want to edify just my wife in her absence. I've got the most incredible wife. She's my lover. She's my best friend. She's my flippant business partner. Yes, come on, I know. Clap hands, yeah. You have to make your wife the king, otherwise, or the queen, otherwise you're not the king, you're just a village idiot. Ne? And so I met her in the gym. She was squatting in front of me, like literally. She was a bodybuilder for 8 years, right? And I couldn't stop watching. And so I've got a friend, he's a pastor, and he says, if you look the first time, it's normal. If you look the second time, it's lust. So make sure that when you look the first time, you look properly. And so I looked properly. I didn't let my eyes go until we got married. And so now I just do double takes. I like walk on and go, okay? And so we've got a little daughter. She's turning 3. She is a miracle baby. Her name is LeMay. So we didn't know what to call her, and we were driving around in the Hemel en Aarde Vallei in Hermanus. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's such a beautiful valley. And so I've got this habit of taking words and I turn them around. And so I took the word Hemel and I went, oh my word, that's LeMay. That's so flippin' cool, Hemel, because she was a miracle baby, and it's heaven, and it's Hemel, and so I thought, yes, it is cool. And so then I took the word heaven, and I turned that around, and that's Nevaeh. Now, how cool is that? Okay, but then she said to me, no, then she's going to become Nivea for men. And I said, okay, yes, because I know what it feels like. You don't ever want to call your children Heiki, because everything in this world rhymes with Heiki. Heiki, Freiki, Seiki, Keiki, Konfeiki. I mean, so don't ever do that. Okay. In a day like today, our lives change when we get a different perspective on life, right? And so there's this great story about this guy that worked in a factory, right? And he worked on a mine. Okay, let's say he worked at Sasol. There's more Sasol there. And so at the end of the day, he came out with a wheelbarrow, and the security guard stopped him and said, "What is that in your wheelbarrow?" And it was a little boxy with sawdust in. And he said, "Sir, this is sawdust." He said, "What are you doing with the sawdust?" He said, "No, there's sawdust in the factory and I need it for home." He said, "Let me have a look." And so he had a look in the little box, and vrachtig, it was sawdust. And then the security guard thought, "Oh, that's very weird." He said, "Okay, you can go." And so next day, same thing. Arrives in with a wheelbarrow. There's a little box in the wheelbarrow. Security guard says, "What's in the wheelbarrow?" He says, "No, it's sawdust, like yesterday, sir." He says, "Let me see." Opens it up, vrachtig sawdust again. Couldn't believe it. Security guard's puzzled. Goes on. This happens the 3rd day, the 4th day, the 5th day, the 6th day. The 7th day, here he comes again with a wheelbarrow. Security guard stops him and says, "What the hell is in there, that little box?" He says, "It's sawdust, sir, like yesterday and the day before and the day before." Security guard says, "Listen, wait, okay. I know that you're up to something. I don't know what it is, okay? But I'll make you a deal. I know that you're stealing something, all right? But if you tell me, it's freaking me out because I can't figure it out. If you tell me, I promise you I won't report you. I promise you." The guy says, "Are you serious? You won't report me?" He says, "Yes, I won't report me." "What is it?" I say, "Meneer, I steal wheelbarrows." and so you can relate the story now to my talk. The reason Marita got hold of me was because of that. The theme for this year was 2025, the year to thrive. And you read it everywhere, like you don't survive, thrive, go deep dive, all of that stuff. And so in 2024, what happened was my wife and I, we went and ministered at a church in Kimberley, and we drove up there, and there was this big sign that said 2024, the year for more, right? And I looked at Jared and I said, "Papa, what was last year? 2023, it's up to me. 2023, we are free. 2022 was something like, oh, it was double blessings. Oh, you got to get the double blessing. You got to get double portion this year. 2020 was the year of vision, perfect vision." And I looked at my wife and I said, "Pops, I know so many people that didn't get a new vision. I know so many people that didn't get double blessings. The blessings that they had got halved. I know people that weren't free. They're still slaves and debt, and it's tough, and it's challenges and loss and all of that stuff." And so I looked at this, and I'm all for declaring the goodness over our lives. But it reminded me of a story of a guy called Jim Rohn. So Jim Rohn was one of America's greatest entrepreneurs, thought leaders. He was a consultant to the White House, philanthropist. And so Chrysler, which was a car manufacturing company, paid him $1 million to come and sit with the board. And what they asked Jim Rohn, he's passed away by the way, but they asked him, Mr. Rohn, what do you think this next year is going to look like for the car manufacturing industry? And Mr. Rohn looked at him and he thought, well, I don't know, that's a complicated question. They said, it's not a complicated question, Mr. Rohn. What's the year going to look like? It's simple. You know mega trends, you know industry, you know the marketplace, what's it going to be like? And he said, you know, this year is going to be exactly the same as the year before, and the year before that, and the year before that. The sun is going to come up, the sun is going to go down. There's going to be 4 seasons: winter, autumn, what's the other 2? Spring, summer, you know? And they looked at him quite puzzled, and he said, you know what? Every single year is a combination of only 2 things. It's a combination of opportunity and difficulty. Sometimes there's more opportunity than difficulty. Sometimes there's more difficulty than opportunity. But the mix is always the same. But here's the thing. It's not about the opportunity or the difficulty. It's what you do with that. Because if you keep on doing the same thing year in, year out, you cannot expect different results. That's what Einstein calls insanity. You know, we do the same thing every day, every night and stuff, but we kind of expect different results. So if you continuously plant potatoes, you can't expect watermelons to come up, right? And so many years ago, in one of the treatment facilities that I went to, so I was kind of a crazy kid. My whole life was just going from one drug treatment facility to the next, to psychiatric facilities, jail, jail cells, psychiatric facilities. Okay, I was a heroin addict for a very long time in my life, and I'm not going to go into all the war stories, but in one of these treatment facilities, I came in, I was just this lifeless junkie. I had no friends, family, it was a disaster, stole a whole bunch of things, you know, yeah. I was just that guy that you often see on the streets. And so I walked into this treatment facility and I didn't want to be there. And this woman came up to me and she was about this, no, she was probably about that big. Her name was Margie. She was a sister. And so Margie came up to me and she gave me this big hug and she whispered in my ear and she said, this too shall pass. And that's such a powerful thing. You know, the good will pass, the bad will pass. Anyway, and they looked for drugs. They wanted to see if I smuggled in drugs, because you can't smuggle in drugs in rehab. And so they didn't find anything, but I had 2 grams of heroin in my shoe, right, which they didn't find. And so after they searched my stuff, they said to me, go up these stairs and go into that room and go and take a shower, because the next 6 weeks is going to be tough. It's going to be rough. Now, I don't want to minimize your pain. Getting over any habit, changing any habit is difficult. Eating habits, you know, procrastination, any habit is difficult, okay? Heroin was difficult for me, okay? And so I went into the room, I unpacked my clothing, I took off my clothes, and so I went into the bathroom, I took the heroin and I stuffed it up my nose because I didn't have a needle, I was an intravenous heroin addict. And so I turned around and I walked outside and there was this big mirror against the wall. And so now I'm just going to ask you, can I tell the story the way it actually happened, or should I sugarcoat it? The way it happened. Okay, so you can't be offended if I say something. Okay, you let the man ID. Okay. So I walked and I went and stood in front of the mirror and I looked at myself. And then I looked there where boys look. You know, that's where boys look. And I kind of did what boys do. You know, when you're married, you'll see that your husband's going to do a whole bunch of crazy things. Okay, you'll get used to it. Okay, ons is mos nou alles gewoond, nee. We that married. If you're not married, I promise you, you're going to get a fright. I'm telling you. Oh no, you're going to go, I didn't know that my husband like does these things. You know, I even tried to do a bit of a helicopter once, you know. So, and while I stood there, I looked at myself and it was just this lifeless corpse. And I didn't want to be there. I just wanted to end it all. I had enough. I had enough of struggling and pain and hardship and drama in my life. And so, but when I looked at the mirror, something kind of looked odd. I knew I was high, but I thought, you know, am I hallucinating now? There were these shadows and stuff, and I thought, you know, what is that? And I went closer, and I thought, you know, what is it? And ek maak so, en ja, ek maak so, en ek doen al die goed. And I went closer. When I got to the mirror, and ek toe ek my hande so op die spieël sit, toe sit 'n one-way mirror, toe sit die psychiatrists and die psychologists aan hierdie kant. And so they were looking at me, doing whatever, and I didn't know it's a room in a treatment facility called the Fishbowl. So you've got psychiatrists, psychologists. They actually monitor you to see how when you come off your drugs. And of course, if you've ever taken drugs, I was super paranoid, and I so thought, what is this? Why are you looking at me? And so I got angry, and I got resentful, and I put up my clothes, and it was a great excuse for me just to RHT, refusal of hospital treatment, because I didn't want to stay there. And so I packed my bags, and I sorted them, and I put on my clothing. I said, I'm not going to stay, and I took the bag, and I walked out, and I kicked the ticky box, and I think I actually did quite a great kick when I did it. And so... And I walked down these stairs, and I was swearing at them. And as I walked down, the stairs went down, and I had to turn to the left. As I turned to the left, something caught my eye. It was a small little laminated paper with a little prayer inside. And the prayer said the following. It said, God, grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the people I can, and the wisdom to know that person is I. Is I. Not the world, not your parents, not your work, not your job, not the government, not the president. I think that things are going to change out there for you to be happy. It has to. This is where it happens. You know, it's not even I want to say it's not even a biblical thing, right? For you to want everything to change, so for you to ever be ready and decide when you're going to change, it starts with you. And so a thought dawned on me, and I thought, oh my word, did I choose to be here? Was it my choice? Did I choose all my mental health battles? It's Mental Health Awareness Month this month, just by the way. Did I choose my pain? Did I make an appointment with myself in that moment to be there? And yes, I did. Just as much as you made an appointment and a choice to be where you are in your life today. You are where you are today because of your choices. When you're 28, when you're 8 years old, you can blame. When you're 28, you can't blame anyone at all. You are where you are because of your choices, right? And so I thought to myself, I'm not a victim of my circumstances. I'm the architect of it. And if I'm in such a mess, I can unmess it, right? Because I realized that, oh my word, if I want things to get better in my life, in my marriage, in my work, in my space, who needs to get better? I need to get better. If I want things to change in my life, who needs to change? I need to change. If I wanted things to grow, who needed to grow? I flippin' needed to grow. And I thought, oh my word, wow. I always thought it was the wind that takes you to your end destination in life. It's not the wind. It's the setting of the sails, because the same wind blows over all of us, right? And I thought, flip it, okay? That was incredible. And I had such an epiphany, such an epiphany. And so I went to my counselor, Fonny. He was an incredible man. And we sat and I told the story last night. I'm not going to tell it today because we don't have the time. But he gave me a book to read about a scientist. This is one story about a scientist in this book. This is a true story. And what the scientist wanted to do was, he was looking for twins. Anybody twins here? Twilling? Okay. He was looking for twins that haven't spoken to one another for a very long time, because twins always say that they've got this special connection with one another. When the one is sad, the other one feels it. Oh, when the one is down, the other one goes, oh, something's wrong. You know, there's almost like a psychosomatic connection. My ex-wife were twins, so alles almal bietjie. And so he was looking for twins that haven't spoken to one another for a very long time. And it took 9 months, and he couldn't find these twins because he wanted to prove whether they've got that connection in a scientific way, right? Is it really like that? And so after 9 months, a friend of his phoned him and said, listen, I actually found twins. They're the perfect specimen, the perfect experiment. One lives in America and the one lives in Australia, and they haven't spoken to one another for 20 years. And he said, oh, wow. And so he goes to the one in America, he finds that twin. But what was crazy, what opvallend was that the one in America was a total bum, total alcoholic, never had a job, total disaster, lives on the streets, never had a job. Just a boomerang, okay? But the one in Australia was doing super well. We're married, 3 children, all the toys for boys, living an incredible life. And so he went to the one in America, the bum, and he said to him, how did you get here? What happened? And he said, well, it's quite simple. I grew up in a home with a father that was an alcoholic. We were verbally abused, mentally, emotionally. My mom was a prostitute. We didn't even have shoes to walk to school, my brother and I, when in the winter, when we got at school and some of the kids gave us like clothing or food or whatever. If we took it home, my parents would sell it, for their drugs. And so in standard 5, we came back home and my mom left. Never, ever, ever saw my mom ever again. And in standard 7, my brother and I were walking up the driveway and we saw my father taking all our stuff, throwing it in black bags. And we went to our dad and said, Dad, what's up? And he tied the bag and he threw the bag down the driveway and I said, Trap, I'm done with you. And his answer was, who done honors? House, that's how I ended up here. And he thought, well, that makes sense, because that does make sense. We hear these stories all the time, and it's sad, and we've got empathy and sympathy, and it's true, okay? And so he went to the other brother in Australia. He said to him, oh, Lord, but your brother told me what happened to him. What happened to you? He said, it's quite simple. My brother and I, we grew up in a home. My father was an alcoholic, my mom was a prostitute, and we were emotionally, verbally, spiritually, and physically, we were abused. It was very tough. We never had food in the home. In primary school, when we were young, we didn't even have shoes in the winter to walk to school, and whenever we got something at school, we were, whatever children gave us, or teachers tried to help us, when we took it home, our parents and them, they would sell it for drug money. In standard 5, we got home, and my mom was left. Never, ever saw my mom ever again. And then in standard 7, my brother and I, we were walking up the driveway and we saw my dad throwing our stuff, putting our stuff in black bags. And we walked up to our dad and said, Dad, what is up? And he tied the bag, he threw it down the driveway and he said, Trap, go, slam met julle. And he said, hoe dan anders? How else? And he said the exact same thing what the other brother said. And that fascinated the scientist. It fascinated him. And so he started doing a study on why did the one achieve greatness and the other one did the following. And I'm going to share 3 things with you why. Kan ek gou 'n slukkie water vat? Nee? Oh, water. Het ons nog tyd? Hoeveel? Dankie. And so there's 3 things, right? There's a couple. There's really a couple, right? But there's 3 things that he highlighted. Okay, it's almost like 3 success philosophies. And we can all practice that, because all of us know that history has shown us over and over and over again that it doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what your schooling is, doesn't matter what your color of your skin is, doesn't matter whatever. You can choose to either become a great success, worldwide success, or you can choose to become nothing. We know so many people that have had all the opportunities in the world, they do nothing with it. And then we hear of people that had no opportunities and they just changed the world, right? And so here's number 1, success philosophy number 1. It's never about what happens to you in life that matters. Never. That's not what matters. Because what happens to you happens to everybody. It's what you do with what happens. It's how you respond. It's with which attitude do you respond. What do you do? The moment challenges come our way, and the moment we respond, there's a stimulus in between. There's a space between what happens to you and the way you respond. And in that space, it happens in a split second, we don't even realize it. It's what we decide to do in that moment that makes all the difference, right? And so, the one child, he saw everything happening, it was happening against him, you know? Alles het met hom gebeur. Everything happened against him. And so he used everything as an excuse not to do anything. He was the victim and he was in this victim mindset. The other one used everything as a reason to overcome. And so Jim Rohn has got this great quote that says, you know, don't wish for things to be easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish for less challenges, wish for more wisdom. You see, it's a perception thing. It's the perspective that you've got to have in life. Because you only get 2 kinds of people in this world. You get people that see what they want, they know what they want. And then you get people that only see the obstacles that stands in their way of what they want, right? So one person is opportunity driven and the other one is difficulty driven. And the wonderful thing is you can actually change that. And so the second thing that the child is he had a vision for his life. So he didn't let his circumstances define his future, because your past does not define what you do tomorrow at all. Your past, your parents, your situation does not define the choices you're going to make today and where you're going to end up, right? And so having a vision for your life is so crucial. And because here's the thing, if I ask 100 people here, what is the vision for your life? Do you know that only 3 people here will get up and say, I've written it down, I've made it plain, I've counted the cost, this is the vision, this is the dream for my life, and they've specified exactly vision for my family, vision for my finances, vision for my health, vision for all of that stuff. and having that vision broken down in goals and actually do it. Why is that so important? Because in my favorite book, it says, without a vision, people perish. What does it mean? It means without a future revelation, without a vision, people throw off self-discipline and self-restraint. What are the two things that is needed for anybody to achieve any results in their lives? Self-discipline and self-restraint. Sacrifice, focus. Because here's the thing with having a vision for your life, having a clear, specific vision. Your vision will determine the things that you say no to for. If you don't have a vision in your life, there's this great story, right, that says, broad is the way that leads to death, and many people find it, and shallow is the road that leads to life, and few people find it. You know that? Do you know that's a story about goal setting and intention? It was a Jewish rabbi teaching, and they taught their children 300 years before Christ about this teaching. It was a teaching about vision and intention, and it said the following: if you don't have a vision that is clear, that is specific, right, you're not going to know what to say no to for in life. So then you're going to say yes and no to whatever comes your way, like the wind comes. You don't have sails, you have die winde kom maar nou maar net. And so then you're on this broad, sea. And you think you're going to end up on an island with a treasure chest. You're not. They said that if you don't have a vision, your general experience in life will be one of failure. It will be. Because people that win in life, their yeses determines their no's. And so if you don't have a vision, you're just on this, And here's the thing about vision. You're not going to wake up one day and suddenly have. You have to go sit down and figure out, why do you do what you do? What is your purpose? What is your personal motivational factor? Do you just wake up every morning, come to work so that you can pay the bills? Is that it? Is that why you come to work? Do you wake up in the mornings? That's your personal motivational factor. Come to work just so that you can get a salary and pay the bills. If that's the only thing that you're doing there, is a massive problem, because you were born for so much more than this. Now, you don't have to be excited about where you are at the moment, but you have to be passionate about where you're going. You have to spend at least 2 hours every single day after work on your dream, on what it is that you want. That's the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. Half of you, 90% of you, are going to go home tonight and not going to do a single thing. Just going to drink a beer, watch TV, do whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not the life I want. Right? And so here's the essence of that teaching. The essence is the following: is you don't have to have the intention one day to be poor. You must just have no intention to have a financial goal, get literate, understand, make an extra stream of income, and poverty will overtake you automatically. You don't have to have the intention to be overweight one day. You must just have no intention to take care of your weight, and overweightness will overtake you automatically. You don't have to have the intention to be a bad mother. You must just have no intention to be a good mother, and bad mother behavior will overtake you automatically. You see, it doesn't just come automatically. You don't just wake up in the mornings and everything is there. You've got to work at it every single day. That's the self-mastery. That's the inner work. That's the personal development, the books, the workshops, the stuff that you've got to read in order to move forward, because the natural pull in life is backwards. If you're standing still, you're not standing still, you're going backwards. It's called the law of use. Whatever you don't use, you lose. Okay? Vision, super important. That was number 2. Number 3 is limiting beliefs. We all have limiting beliefs. We believe we can do this, we can't do this. We make up excuses. I'm too white, I'm too black, I don't have education, I live in Secunda, I don't live in Joburg. Man, my mom did this, my dad did this. I can't do this because I don't have a car, I don't have a cell phone, whatever. And we've got all these limiting beliefs, things that we can or cannot do. There's only 3 ways that you can change your belief system. Only 3 ways. The people that you hang around with, the stuff that you read, and the stuff that you listen to. Those 3 things. It's the only way you can change your belief system. Now, why is this so important, right? There's a story where a leader with the name of Moses took in 12 people into this land, and he said, listen, go and check out the land. And those 12 people came back and said, oh my word, what an incredible flippin', city. There's grapes this big, the chicks are squatting everywhere, everywhere, just squatting. I mean, come on, it's beautiful. But 10 people said we can't do it. 2 said that they can. All right. Then they said something incredible. They said there were giants, there were walls, and then they said something which I call the grasshopper syndrome. They said, we felt like grasshoppers in their sight, and they thought so as well. And then the Creator said to them, you believe you're grasshoppers? Okay. Now you're going to go into the desert, and you're going to die like a grasshopper. And so what's the principle there? The principle is that if you believe limiting beliefs, if you believe you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not significant, that's exactly the life that you're going to have. It's not God's fault. It's not the people's fault. That's your fault.
Because here's the thing, we have all been designed to win, but we've been programmed to lose. And so how do you change the programming? Because your life is a result of the story you keep telling yourself. Now, if you change the story, if you change the narrative, you change your life. Right? So you've got to change your thinking. One of the best books you have to go and read is called Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. It's the third most read book in the world. The Bible's still the most read book. Then there's something else, and then Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. It's not Pray and Grow Rich. It's not Work Hard and Grow Rich. It's Think and Grow Rich. One of my favorite books says, as a man thinketh, so he is. Because the way you think determines how you feel, determines your actions, determines the results, and there goes your life, your habits. So this needs to change. The perspective needs to change. En so, kan ek afsluit hier so? Hoeveel tyd het ons nog? Kan ek maar nog bietjie praat? 5 minute. Okay, wag. Kan ek net gou 'n slukkie vat? Do you know that South Africa is the third most negative country in the world? It's first Brazil, then Venezuela, right? They say we struggle from the donut problem. We look at the donut and all we talk about is the hole. We don't talk about the donut. Now think about when you go out with your friends. What do they talk about? The things that you listen to, the things that you read. Is it just Netflix and listen to the radio and whatever and stuff? Because whatever you're putting in there programs you. So there's a reason why the big book says, guard your heart and guard your mind above everything. Guard your heart, guard your mind. What leadership books are you listening? What personal development books are you reading? What books are you reading that fools you? What people are you hanging around with? Are you hanging around with people that believe in you and wat wil jy moet vlieg en blaas lewe in jou drome and like really, because it's the people closest to us that usually don't believe in what we do. We say, we're going to do this. They go, you know, the people closest to us. So who are you hanging around with? We should get good at setting boundaries because some people are there just for a season. Some people are there for a season and you've got to decide, you know, do you want to end up like the 5 people you spend the most time with? Because that's how it works. That's what happens. You're going to end up like the 5 people you spend the most time with because you share a certain mindset. So, never before in the history of the world has there been more opportunities out there to make an impact, make a difference, create a legacy, have influence, get to a place of financial freedom where you don't have to sell your time for money. There are so many opportunities out there. Why don't we do what we're supposed to do? Well, because of fear. And so it's a big thing, you know, and it's important that we look at that stuff, that we look at the roots, look at why do we do what we do and why don't we do what we do. You were called for a mission, you were called for a purpose. There's a unique plan with your life. I believe that we were all born to live a life of extreme abundance, and you were not born to play small. That's not who you are. The Creator thought of you for 1 billion years and He wove you together. Do you think He took 1 billion years to think about you just for you to live this little life? Oh, I took you know, we should step into our calling, step into our greatness, and start believing the truth of who we are and who we were born to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we have one more book to give away. And I just want to say, you know, I was so feel and flum about 2025, we're going to thrive. And then when I read your post and I realized, you know what, it's all a play of words. But if it doesn't happen here, it doesn't come here, it doesn't come out of here, it's not going to happen for you. And that's why it was so important for me to get you as a speaker. And I'm so glad that you're here. You guys, Michelle's just going to say thank you to him or give him something, please. And then I'll hand out. Wanneer jy iets wil sê nie, Michelle?
Okay, please don't bring me that mic. That's terrible. Guys, we're closing in on the year end. I am so thankful for each and every one of you in this cinema with us today. Just shows us your commitment to the mall as a whole. We're all aiming for the same thing in life. We're here to succeed. And each and every one of you that's sitting here is going to take Heike's message back to your teams. Get them over that line. Get them motivated. Start that fire. Let's kick off this festive season the right way. Heike, thank you so much for inspiring me today, and I'm sure you've inspired a lot of us sitting here. We look forward to kicking out our shoes tonight with you and having a bit of a party. We are having our annual tenant awards tonight, and I look forward to seeing some of the faces here.
And
tonight as
Heike.
well.
Heike is also going to be there.
Yes. Boy, donkey. Okay.
I just want to say thank you to South Kinikor and to Terence and to our videographer and also to The Daily for the lekker coffee and Bulbus's muffins. I didn't bake them. Okay, I'm going to ask a question about Heike's personal life. So, tell me his daughter's name, from which word does it come? Oh, weet jy hom al gesê? Ha! Hemel op aarde, well done. There's your book. You guys, it's up to you, but alone you can't do it. Whether you get your strength, wherever you get it from, use it, make it work in your life and overflow with it. But remember, we're the body, and in unity there's strength. Pull up your neighbors if they think they're going to go for a bit of a dive. Tell them to thrive and be alive. Enjoy the rest of the